Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We're at 862 Northeast Market Drive here in Fairview. We are located down in the crawl space. We're right up against the front foundation wall, and I describe everything as if you're standing in the street facing the front door of the home. The line here exits out essentially, it looks like smack dab underneath the front door, or very close to it. So I've just dropped my camera in here. I just had to reboot my monitor, so I'll show the access point when I come back out here in just a moment. Checking the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line, we start out in 4-inch ABS pipe, although all the main line preceding the clean out is 3-inch diameter. All right, now off we go here. I have a sneaking suspicion. I've done almost 25,000 scopes at this point in my career, and I see this set up a lot where I don't know if it's the case here or not. We'll find out in a second. But during the building phase, I have seen a ton of cleanouts get concreted over, cleanouts that tie in the patio, the concrete patio. So first off right here, it's a minor offset on its own. As far as offset joints are concerned, that is extremely minor. You've lost almost no diameter there. It's about a 1/4 inch out of whack. And you've got a little bit of debris hanging from the top of the pipe. I will see if my camera bumps some of that junk loose. Because of the configuration here, this hard dive that precedes the transition joint, stuff comes flying down a very hard vertical dive, and when it hits the bottom of that, it can often splash upward to the top of the pipe, and because you have a little lip there, it can cause that debris to get stuck to the top of the pipe joint. The only other possibility that could cause that is if you have some small roots coming through there that have been covered up by toilet paper. Generally speaking, usually you're going to have some kind of sign that there's roots there. Not always, but I have cambered, I cannot tell you how many thousands of root intrusions, and usually even the small ones, you'll still often see something peeking out. So it's kind of a hard call to make there. We'll revisit that here in a moment. We just hit the main here at 42 feet, and this line basically runs dead straight all the way out to Market Drive. You can see the curb stamp out in the road too. Right where the line crosses the curb, you'll see an S stamped in the concrete. That's where the line crosses the curb. So essentially runs just about dead straight. Anyhow, we're going to turn the water off here. We're going to let the line drain out. After that little offset, there was a very minor area of standing water. We'll go back over that here in just a moment, but it's a long ways off from repair worthy. Alrighty, line's just about drained off, if not entirely at this point. Not entirely sure where that water's even coming from. I've had water off now for a few minutes. Anyway, from just a purely flow standpoint, the line has good flow to the main lateral, and it's a very, very clean sewer line to boot. Now, what's left over there is maybe a 32nd of an inch water line. And that stuff is still flowing there. I'm stopping periodically so you can see that water's moving. Just trickling off. And anytime there's a little bit of standing water behind the camera, as I move back and forth, it'll sometimes slosh a little bit of water out of those spots and cause it to flow forward. Somewhere back here towards the start of the PVC, we've got a little bit of standing water in the line. The line there might be running just slightly flat. It's kind of a hard one. Well, that's got slope to it. That water's just draining off here. You can see where the belly dissipates. You can see how once you approach that joint there, there's a very clear visual angle to the pipe once you approach that. All right, so a little tiny belly here dissipates off at about 29 feet. In the world of bellies here, that is what I refer to as a rinky-dink little thing. That's not even a 1/4 inch of standing water there. It's somewhere, I mean, I would call it, I'll write it up as somewhere between about a 1/16 and a 1/4 inch, all of which is way too minor to require repair work. And for reference, where I typically just start to consider repairs on bellies, is once there's a 5-foot section of pipe at minimum with at least an inch of water in it. That's static with no water running at all. Even at that point, in a 4-inch plastic sewer line, for instance, a 5-foot belly with an inch of water, even if it's right up next to the home, is still, if you're getting a blockage and a backup out of a belly that size in a 4-inch line, it has almost nothing to do with the belly at all. It would have everything to do with what was going down the sewer line. At this point in my career, I usually don't even recommend repairs on stuff like that until it's close proximity and also in old rough pipe materials where you get a combination of standing water and rough, nasty cast iron or concrete with rough pipe walls that are also snagging debris as it comes through the sewer line. Anyhow, so looking at this belt, my camera right now is upside down. What you're looking at, that little debris there, is at the top of the pipe. Let's see if I can get the camera to flick up into it. It's just a hard spot to run into. Anyway, generally speaking, it is not always the case, but in my experience of thousands and thousands of root intrusions, generally when a joint is opened up to the ground and exposed, you're going to generally have signs of it. So what you typically will see, obviously, are root hairs sticking out, which right now all I'm looking at is just white substance. What that looking more like there is just a little bit of toilet paper scrap that could have got caught to some plastic burrs from a rough saw cut. Could just be general debris that got stuck on the pipe joint, and because water flow rarely hits that location, it just doesn't wash free. But what I'm not seeing going down the sidewalls on either direction from that little bit of debris at the top of the pipe are any dirt stains. Generally, when you've got a line that's opened up to the ground to any extent, groundwater will seep through quite easily under hydraulic pressure, and you're going to have dirt streaks going down the sidewalls. So, I mean, what I'll do is I'll write this up as a possible root intrusion. Realistically, you would probably have to do some drain cleaning on this, and ideally very gentle drain cleaning, like get your machine in there and just bump it for a moment to try and knock that stuff loose, but don't get so aggressive that you cut or remove any roots. But even when you look over the top of the joint there's nothing obvious. I would suspect if we had roots dangling down there, some of the spacing you see between the green PVC and the black pipe, you'd likely see some level of root hairs protruding out from that. Even if they didn't jut all the way into the sewer line, you'd have evidence of it. So from what I can see here, this looks more like just debris that got hung up there. The joint is not causing any flow issues whatsoever. There's zero buildup to even recommend cleaning on. So the other thing that's possible here too, as you notice when you get right up to about here, you've got a little bit of staining at the top of the pipe. That often can indicate at some point in the past a blockage may have happened, and this is often the result of a main lateral backup where the city's main blocks and starts backing up the individual laterals for each home. You can see that stuff stops before it even gets to this joint. But what can happen, it keeps persisting, but not much. If this has ever experienced a backup in the past, which allowed the line to fill up all the way, sometimes you'll get debris that gets deposited at the top of the pipe or in a little spot like that. And because water never sees that location, it doesn't get washed away. So the other explanation is we have this hard vertical drop right here. We're going almost straight down. You can imagine when stuff hits the bottom of this thing, it's going to go splash, and it's going to splash upward to the top of the pipe. So from what I can tell here, I will write this up as possible roots. The offset on its own is way too minor to require repairs, in my opinion. You've still got 4 inches of width by about, I mean, at least 3 3/4 of height. I mean, it's doing nothing to affect functionality. Even if the lip were in the flow line, it would do nothing to affect functionality, especially with a hard vertical dive like this that precedes it. So, you know, the only way to really confirm what you've got going on there would be to remove the debris and try and look underneath it. Even that is still a tricky one. If you have roots so small, they're not even protruding out from underneath that debris there, there's a very high likelihood, even if you got a machine out there and just barely bumped the thing, there's a very good chance you're going to remove whatever's there. And right now, without seeing any other secondary signs that joint is opened up to the ground, right now I'm not even leaning towards there being roots there. There's just enough stuff there that it's possible. So, and this line's been here a long time. Based on what I see, I don't think a lot of people have been down here over the years opening this thing up, you know, to drain clean it. The staining I see in here, it doesn't show any signs of being drain cleaned recently. Otherwise, the line would usually look a little bit different. Most folks are going to come out and jet the thing out or something like that. And you're going to strip every little bit of debris off the pipe wall that there is. So anyway, we've got good flow all the way to the main lateral. The belly there from 25 to 29 feet is far too minor to require repairs. The joint there at the transition around 7-8 feet into the sewer line. Again, offset's too minor to affect functionality. No reason to fix the line from that standpoint. And then again, possible roots. So the best you could probably do here is either try and drain clean it and rescope to see if you can uncover anything, and or you're about the most surefire way to do this is to rescope the line in a year or so and see if anything comes back or continues to grow or something of that nature. But being as white as that substance is there without any staining around the joint, you will almost always have some amount of dirt seeping through a joint like that, and it's spotless clean. So anyway, sewer line is functioning properly at this time with a little bit of a question mark there at that transition, but in my experience, that's just not shown enough there to even confirm its roots.